I never thought a Saturday afternoon could feel so ordinary. My boyfriend, Alex, had this thing about art, always dragging me to galleries and exhibits. And I usually tagged along with a polite smile and a glazed stare. But today, something felt different. We entered the photography exhibit tucked inside a quiet part of the city. The walls were lined with photographs that seemed alive, bursting with color, emotion, and stories. Alex held my hand, squeezing it now and then, clearly proud to show me this world he loved. I tried to focus on the photos, the way light danced on water, how shadows could carve emotions out of nothing, but my attention kept wandering. There was someone else in the room. Not just anyone, but the photographer herself. She moved through the exhibit with a calm confidence, correcting a frame here, adjusting a light there. Every gesture felt intentional, every smile for a visitor seemed effortless yet genuine. I couldn't explain it, but there was something magnetic about her. Maybe it was the way her eyes sparkled when she spoke about her work, or maybe it was just the energy she carried, like the room had suddenly shifted, and everything else faded. Alex noticed my distraction, giving me a curious glance. "You okay?" he asked. I nodded, though my mind was already somewhere else, following her movements, trying to catch glimpses of her expressions, the subtle way she interacted with the art and the people. I told myself it was just admiration for her work. That had to be it, right? But deep down, I felt a thrill I hadn't expected, a pull towards something unknown, something dangerous in its intensity. And in that moment, I realized this day wouldn't end the way I thought. Because as she turned and our eyes met, something inside me stirred. Something that whispered, what if choosing her is the only choice that matters? I found myself drifting toward her, almost without thinking. Alex was still a few steps behind, talking about aperture settings and light balance. I nodded politely, but my mind was elsewhere. She was standing in front of a photograph of a rainy street at night, her hand gently tracing the outline of a shadow on the pavement. I swallowed hard. "It's beautiful," I said, surprising myself that I even spoke. She turned toward me, and for a moment, the world shrank down to just the two of us. Her smile was soft but knowing, like she could see something inside me that I hadn't even recognized. "Thank you," she said. It means a lot when someone notices the little details. Something in her voice, a mixture of warmth and quiet intensity, made me want to say more. I found myself asking questions I hadn't even considered before. What inspired this one? How do you decide which moments to capture? She leaned in slightly, explaining her process, and I listened like a sponge, hanging on to every word. There was a passion there, a fire for creation that was intoxicating. Each answer revealed more about her, not just the photographer, but the person behind the lens. And then, just like that, she laughed. A soft, genuine laugh that filled the space between us. I realized I hadn't smiled like this in months. Not with Alex, not with anyone. Just her. I felt a pang of guilt. Alex was standing right there, talking about some technical aspect I didn't care to understand. But the pull toward her was undeniable. My heart raced in a way it hadn't before, and I knew, even if I tried to ignore it, that something significant had shifted inside me. As she excused herself to speak with another visitor, I caught her glance lingering on me just a little longer than necessary. That fleeting moment was enough. Enough to make me question everything I thought I knew about love, desire, and what it meant to truly be seen. And suddenly, I realized, I wasn't just interested in her photography. I was interested in her. The exhibit was bustling, but somehow, she seemed to glide through it effortlessly, almost like she belonged everywhere and nowhere at the same time. I lingered behind, pretending to admire a photo of a foggy forest, but really, I was waiting for her to appear again. And then she did. She stepped into a quieter corner of the gallery, where the lighting was softer, the photographs more intimate. She looked up and caught my eyes immediately. My chest tightened. "You're really drawn to this one, aren't you?" she asked, nodding toward a photograph of a dimly lit cafe. I nodded, trying to keep my composure. "It feels alive," I said, my voice lower than I intended. She smiled knowingly, stepping closer. "You see things most people miss," she said softly. There was a pause, the kind that stretches just long enough to make the air between you electric. My heart was pounding, I could feel every beat. I wanted to tell her so many things, but words felt clumsy, inadequate. Instead, I let the silence speak. And she seemed to understand. Her presence was magnetic, pulling me in like gravity itself had shifted. She bent down to adjust the frame of a photograph, and for a fleeting second, our hands brushed. My breath caught. It was such a small gesture, yet it set off a chain reaction inside me, an undeniable spark I could no longer ignore. "Do you want to see more?" she asked suddenly, her voice low and inviting. My mind raced. Alex was out of earshot, still talking to someone else. And yet, here I was, standing at the edge of something I couldn't name, feeling more alive than I had in years. I nodded, and together we walked to a secluded room filled with her personal works. Each photograph told a story, but none compared to the story unfolding between us in that quiet space. Every glance, every word, every subtle movement made it painfully clear. I was falling for her. And in that moment, I realized that some choices aren't simple. Some attractions aren't fleeting. Some moments demand that you pay attention, even if it means risking everything you thought you had. Walking back through the main exhibit, I felt a storm brewing inside me. Every word the photographer had said, every subtle touch, lingered on my skin like electricity. I could barely look at Alex without feeling a pang of guilt, and yet, I couldn't stop thinking about her. Alex smiled at me, completely unaware of the turmoil. "Did you like it?" he asked, his eyes full of hope. I nodded, but my smile felt fragile, forced. I wanted to tell him the truth, that something had shifted in me, that I was suddenly seeing the world in colors I hadn't noticed before, but the words caught in my throat. The photographer appeared again, this time near a photograph of a quiet riverbank. Our eyes met, and a small smile passed between us, silent, intimate, loaded with meaning. My chest tightened. I realized that my heart was no longer mine to command. It had chosen, whether I wanted it to or not. We exchanged a few words about her work, but every conversation felt heavier than the last. Each laugh, each glance, each shared observation pulled me further away from the life I thought I had settled into. I was walking a line I never thought I'd cross. And yet, part of me still hesitated. Alex was kind, loving, safe, the predictable choice. She represented risk, the unknown, desire that scared and thrilled me at the same time. I felt torn in ways I had never felt before. By the end of the exhibit, we were leaving together, but my mind was elsewhere. I kept stealing glances at her, memorizing the curve of her smile, the way her hair caught the light, the quiet intensity in her eyes. Every fiber of me wanted to turn back, to walk toward her, to take the leap I knew I needed to take. As we reached the gallery exit, I felt it, the undeniable truth that I couldn't ignore. The path I had been following wasn't mine anymore. My heart was speaking louder than my mind, louder than my fear. And for the first time in my life, I understood, choosing her wasn't just an option. It was inevitable. The moment came suddenly, almost unbearably. We were standing outside the gallery, the evening air cool against my skin. Alex was chatting about dinner plans, oblivious to the storm raging inside me. I nodded along, but my heart wasn't in the conversation, it hadn't been for hours. Then I saw her across the street, still lingering near the gallery doors, as if she had been waiting for me. Our eyes locked, and everything else, the chatter, the city, even Alex's words, faded into the background. I felt my knees weaken, my chest tightening with a truth I could no longer deny. Every instinct in me screamed that I had to go to her. That this was more than desire. It was recognition, connection, a spark that refused to be ignored. I turned to Alex, searching for the right words, but there were none. How could I explain that my heart had shifted, that I was no longer his? The guilt was sharp, but beneath it, there was a clarity I had never known. I had to follow my truth, even if it broke everything else around me. I need to go, I said, my voice trembling. Alex froze, confusion and hurt flashing across his face. What do you mean? He asked, but I couldn't look at him anymore. I didn't explain. I didn't try. I simply walked across the street, each step feeling heavier and lighter all at once. And there she was, waiting, a small, knowing smile on her face. Hey, she said softly, her eyes holding mine. I thought you might come. I laughed, a breathless, relieved laugh, and for the first time that day, I felt like myself. I had to, I admitted. We stood there for a moment, the world shrinking around us, until I realized something important. This choice wasn't about leaving anyone behind. It was about choosing myself, choosing honesty, choosing a love that demanded courage and truth. And as we walked away together, hand in hand, I knew with certainty that I had found something rare, something worth every risk, every fear, every heartbeat that led me here. Choosing her wasn't just an option. It was the only choice my heart could ever make. Walking away with her felt surreal, like stepping into a world I had only glimpsed in dreams. The city lights blurred around us, but none of it mattered. All that mattered was her hand in mine, the warmth of her presence, the undeniable connection that had pulled me from a life I thought I wanted. But reality hit soon enough. Guilt gnawed at me like a persistent shadow. Alex had been kind, loving, predictable. I'd hurt him, and the thought made my chest ache. I had to process it, to understand that choosing her didn't make me cruel, it made me honest. I couldn't live a lie, not even for the comfort of what I already knew. She noticed my hesitation, the slight tension in my grip. It's okay, she said softly. You don't have to have all the answers right now. We'll figure it out together. Her words were a balm, but also a reminder of the responsibility I carried, not just to her, but to myself. That night, we talked for hours about life, art, fears, and desires. She shared stories behind her photographs, and I shared pieces of myself I hadn't told anyone. Every word deepened the bond, every laugh stitched a fragile bridge over the guilt I felt. It wasn't easy. My mind kept drifting back to Alex, to the life I had left behind. But she reminded me gently that love wasn't about perfection. It was about truth, about recognizing the fire that ignites when two souls connect. And with her, that fire burned brighter than anything I had ever known. By the time the first light of dawn touched the city, I realized something profound. Choosing her wasn't just about a fleeting attraction. It was about growth, courage, and embracing the love that had been waiting for me all along. I didn't know what the future held. Maybe there would be heartbreak, maybe challenges we couldn't foresee. But for the first time in a long while, I felt alive, truly alive, and ready to face whatever came next, as long as it was with her by my side. Weeks passed, and each day with her felt like discovering a new world. We explored the city, walked through quiet streets, shared late-night coffee, and laughed over the smallest things. Every moment reminded me why I had chosen her. The pull that had begun in a gallery now had roots deep in my heart. The guilt I had felt for leaving Alex never fully disappeared, but it softened with time. I realized that love wasn't about staying because it was easy or expected. It was about being brave enough to follow your heart, even when it terrified you. And my heart had led me to her. She had a way of seeing me that no one else ever had. In her eyes, I felt acknowledged, cherished, and free. I began to understand the depth of her world, the care she put into every photograph, every interaction. And slowly, I learned to bring that same depth to my own life. One evening, we returned to the gallery, the place where it all began. She guided me to the same corner where our hands had brushed for the first time. "This is where it started," she whispered, her fingers intertwining with mine. I smiled, memories flooding back. The stolen glances, the quiet conversations, the tension, the excitement, the choice. "And this is where it will continue," I said. We stood there for a long moment, letting the weight of the journey settle around us. Choosing her hadn't been simple, and it hadn't been painless. But it had been real, and it had been worth every heartbeat, every pang of fear, every step into the unknown. As we walked out of the gallery, hand in hand, I felt a sense of peace I hadn't known I was capable of. The city around us felt alive, vivid, and full of possibilities, just like our love. I had chosen her. And in that choice, I had chosen myself, my truth, and a love that promised to grow with every step we took together. And in the quiet of that night, I finally understood, some stories aren't about what you leave behind, they're about what you dare to embrace.